Yo, YouTube, what's going on, guys? So, we start and come back with another video. In this video, y'all, we're gonna be going through the God of War story and where we're at this point in our series. So, in our series, we're at the God of War stage. So, God of War 1. Well, really, Chains of Olympus, because we just finished Ascension, but we can't play Chains of Olympus because it's only on PSP. They did have it for PS5 previously, but for some reason they took it off when they made PlayStation Plus. I remember playing God of War 1 like a year ago and wanted to play Chains of Olympus, looking it up, and they didn't have it. Then I looked it up again and they had it. Looked it up again and they took it off. So Chains of Olympus is one of those games on PlayStation Plus that is just like, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. So for now, we can't play it we can't play it. I tried to find any type of way to play it and I couldn't. So we just have to watch a video explaining the story of Chains of Olympus. And we're going to just recap the story of where we're at to this point. So I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe.
Historian channel, where we take some of your favorite comic books, video games, and movies and bring you a synopsis in a rather unique format. We allow you to catch up on the lore of your favorite storylines and games by giving you an audio drama explaining the plotline in a manner in which some of you may find as a form of entertainment. Today we're going to be covering one of my favorite franchises from the very beginning, the God of War. Many of you may have played the new God of War for the PlayStation 4, but it is actually in continuity with the rest of the series, and therefore many of you who are younger and just picked the game up recently may not be aware of where it started, since a lot of these older games are on the Vita and the PSP and things that you really can't get your hands on without buying a remastered version in the PlayStation Store. So today, we're going to start from the very, very beginning. We start with God of War, Ascension. In ancient times, Kratos was born into the warrior society of Sparta. Unknown to him, he was born a demigod, the son of the mighty Zeus and the human woman Callisto. Hera, queen of the gods and wife to Zeus, grew furious at her husband's affair and ordered him to kill the young Spartan. Yet Zeus would look down upon his lost son and choose to allow him to live, a choice that would eventually haunt him. Later, Zeus was warned by a prophecy that the gods would be killed, destroyed by a Mart warrior. Looking down upon the earth, Zeus saw Deimos, brother to Kratos, born with a birthmark covering his body. Sending forth both Ares and Athena, the two gods arrived at Sparta to take down the young Deimos. Though young, Kratos tried to defend his brother, attacking the two gods. And of course, he wasn't strong enough and he was thrown aside. Ares stepped forward, his fury bringing him to kill the young Spartan who would dare stand against the gods. But it was Athena who stayed his hand. As the gods turned to leave, the goddess turned to the stunned Kratos, offering her apologies for their actions. And in memory of his lost brother, Kratos tattooed his body, mimicking the marks that his brother was born with. Over the years, Kratos' memories of these events would fade. Time would march on, and Kratos would become an established warrior within the Spartan army. He would take Lysandra as his wife, and the two would have a daughter named Calliope. But Calliope was set upon by plague after her birth. Spartan law required that the child be cast aside for weakness. Yet Kratos wouldn't allow this, and instead set out on a quest for the magical ambrosia, which legends state can heal any wound or disease. Yet the Spartan did not know that he was chosen as the champion of the god Ares in the wager against the other gods. So along his journey, Kratos came in contact with the champions of Poseidon, Artemis, and Helios. With each victory, Kratos overcame the wrath of the gods, and he got one step closer to his goal. Finally, he found the ambrosia, but was met by the barbarian King Alric, the champion of Hades and his whole army. Alric also sought the ambrosia, hoping to heal his dying father. The two armies met in battle, and finally Kratos was able to overcome Alric in one-on-one combat. With his army defeated, Kratos returned to Sparta, where he gained the rank of captain in the army, and he healed his daughter. As his champion, Kratos led the armies of Sparta across the known world, becoming known as a brutal leader and warrior with each victory. Then one fated day, Kratos met a foe that he could not defeat. The armies of Sparta clashed against the barbarian hordes, once again led by King Alric. As his army fell around him, Kratos cried to Ares to save and protect him. The god of war looked down on the warrior, offering his aid for a lifetime of servitude. Kratos accepted, and the barbarian horde is laid waste around him. As a sign of his loyalty to Ares, the warrior was given the Blades of Chaos, twin swords that were forged from the bowels of the underworld and bound with chains. Those chains were wrapped around his forearm.
Wait, why?
The warrior horde is raised to save that he could not defeat. The armies of Sparta clashed against the barbarian hordes, once again led by King Alric. As his army fell around him, Kratos cried to Ares to save and protect him. The god of war looked down on the warrior, offering his aid for a lifetime of servitude. Kratos accepted, and the barbarian horde is laid waste around him. As a sign of his loyalty to Ares, the warrior was given the Blades of Chaos, twin swords that were forged from the bowels of the underworld and bound with chains. Those chains were wrapped around his forearms and they burned into his flesh as a sign of Kratos' everlasting servitude to the god of war. Kratos traveled the land, serving his new master and spreading death and destruction before him. While the Spartan was always known as a brutal warrior, under Ares' control, he quickly began to lose any semblance of the mortal man that he once was. It was one day that Kratos and his forces attacked a village, the smoke and the flames bellowing around them. And Kratos smashed his way into the temple of Athena. Fury and bloodlust overtook the Spartan, and he used the Blades of Chaos to slay everyone inside. As the haze of battle left him, Kratos stood over the bodies of his slain wife and daughter.
Okay, this was not a want, it was a need. I had to get my hands on this red...
Their blood still dripping from his weapons. Ares had brought him here, hoping to sever Kratos' last ties to humanity by making him kill them in his stupor. Angry at the trick, Kratos cursed the name of Ares and renounced his allegiance to the god of war. Sadness filled Kratos, and he stumbled from the temple to discover the village's oracle outside. She placed a curse upon him, forcing him to wear the ashes of his fallen loved ones and see their deaths whenever he closed his eyes. From this day forth, Kratos became known as the Ghost of Sparta, his ash-white skin forever telling the story of his sins. Ares became angered by Kratos renouncing his loyalty and ordered the Furies, a group of 3 sisters who sought vengeance on those who would break their oaths with the gods, to capture him. However, the son of the Queen Fury and Ares, Orcus, saw Ares had tricked the Spartan warrior and the actions taken against him were wrong. Orcus worked alongside Kratos against the Furies, pointing the warrior along a path that would reveal the depths of the Furies was the only way for Kratos to free himself of the chains of Ares. Kratos was captured by the Furies and imprisoned.
I didn't realize that. Throughout God of War Ascension, our mother, quote-unquote mother, was leading us through the way.
With an Aegean, the fallen body of an ancient giant that had broken an oath with the gods of Olympus. Kratos managed to break free, killing each of the Furies in turn and finally escaping. Once he returned to his home, however, he was greeted by Orcus, who revealed that he had been made the keeper of Kratos' oath. Knowing the only way for each of them to be free, Orcus offered his blade to the Ghost of Sparta. Sadly, Kratos killed his new friend, breaking Ares' hold over him. Memories began to flood through Kratos' mind, and he sees the deaths of his family all over again. It was Ares' power that had held the visions of the tragedy at bay, and now that his hold had been broken, his mind almost shattered by the horrors that he had committed. Stumbling from his home, his mind raises blood. Sadly, Kratos killed his new friend, breaking Ares' hold over him. Memories began to flood through Kratos' mind, and he sees the deaths of his family all over again. It was Ares' power that had held the visions of the tragedy at bay, and now that his hold had been broken, his mind almost shattered by the horrors that he had committed. Stumbling from his home, he collects himself, for he is still the great warrior, the Ghost of Sparta. He burns the dwelling, destroys the last links to his past. He turns away from the glow of the flames, setting forth on a new quest to end the visions of his past and gain his revenge. And that brings us to the conclusion of God of War Ascension, the first part of our God of War catch-up series. I hope you guys enjoyed our Final Fantasy XIV catch-up series, because now we're doing...
So that was the catch-up to God of War Ascension. I mean, he talked about everything. He didn't really show the parts, but when he was talking, I was like, oh, towards the end, I was like, oh, we did play through all that he was talking about. But yeah, so yeah, we played through the origins of Kratos, how he was made, how he became, how he fought through the sisters, through everything that just happened, man. Everything that just happened. So now we're gonna go on to the Chains of Olympus.
On video games, consider going to our Eligible Monster YouTube channel. It's there that I sit with many of the members of the Eligible Monster team discussing various elements of the video game world, from news to lore to just things that we enjoy playing. And we'd love to have you join us over there. You can also find us on every Friday, Saturday, Sunday playing various video games on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/EligibleMonster. But enough of the plugs. Let's continue with the thing that you clicked the video for. God of War: The Full Story. Now, we've already given you the Kratos origin in the last video, and I'll link that down below.
Facts. We watched that.
Today it's time to move on to the God of War, Chains of Olympus. Kratos now travels the land, working as a warrior of the gods, with the promise that they will lift the curse of the visions of his family's deaths if he serves them loyally. It's been 5 years since his battle with the Furies, and the ghost of Sparta has been sent to the city of Attica. The gods fear that the city will fall as it is under attack by the Persian army. And upon his arrival, the great Spartan warrior aids the defenders as best as he can, quickly spotting a basilisk as it climbs the city walls and begins to wreak destruction upon the city. Kratos pursues the beast, knowing that the common soldiers will not be able to defeat such a monster. And during his chase throughout the city, Kratos meets the Persian king, defeating him in combat. Yet the ghost of Sparta does not slow, and he continues his hunt of the mighty basilisk. Eventually, he ensues his victory, and then he takes a moment to catch his breath. But he's shocked when he looks up to see the sun falling out of the sky, sending the world into an endless night. With the world in darkness, Kratos begins to follow the only remaining light on the horizon,
sun just fell through,
which leads him to the city of Marathon. It is here that he discovers that Morpheus, the god of dreams, has taken this advantage over this calamity to begin spreading his fog of sleep over the earth. Quickly, Kratos fights his way through the black fog, defeating the minions of the dream god, finally arriving at the Temple of Helios, where the last remaining light within the world resides. It is there that he is spoken to by Athena, who warns him that Helios, the god of sun, has vanished, and that Morpheus's dream fog is not merely within the city of Marathon, but has plunged most of the gods into a deep sleep. Athena tasks the ghost of Sparta with finding Helios, thus returning the sun to the world and sending Morpheus back to the lands of the slumber. Kratos pushes forward, meeting Eos, the sister of Helios. Eos tells Kratos that her brother has been captured by the Titan Atlas. She promises that the gods will release him from his nightmare should he be successful in his mission of freeing her brother, though he is distrustful of the gods, as this would not be the first time they had betrayed him. Kratos agrees to the task and starts by freeing the great fire steeds that have been pulling Helios' chariot. Once freed, the steeds carry Kratos into the underworld, where Helios is currently being held. Once he gets there, he meets Charon, the ferryman of the river Styx.
Oh no.
A tall, gaunt figure. Charon refuses to take Kratos across the river, for he still belongs to the land of the living. Yet the Spartan would not be turned away, and he fought Charon for control of his ferry. But Kratos is not strong enough to defeat such an ancient being and is quickly defeated. Despite Charon's claims that Kratos did not belong in the underworld, he dropped the warrior into the pit of Tartarus, where only the most evil souls reside. But Kratos would not be persuaded and began to fight his way free of the pit. Within these dark depths, Kratos found the gauntlets of Zeus, which allowed the king of the gods to chain the titans within Tartarus. He also witnessed the mighty Atlas, one of the imprisoned titans of old, and he freed him of his chains. Now armed with the gauntlets, Kratos broke free of the pit and once again challenged Charon to a fight. Now stronger, he was able to overcome the ferryman and make his way across the river, following the light of the sun, which now lit the underworld as never before.
Here's another how-to video if your dreams are bigger than your funds and you don't know what
the other one messed me up even more because I played it. I mean, I played this one too, but for some reason I remember this one more.
Stunned to find his daughter along the shoreline. Quickly docking the ferry, he comes upon the Temple of Persephone, home of the goddess of spring, who's been abducted by Hades.
I feel like this is a better game
and now serves as the queen of the underworld. The goddess takes pity on the great warrior, telling him that his daughter now resides within the fields of Elysium, where the souls of the pure live for.
We should daughter.
Kratos is stunned to find his daughter along the shoreline. Quickly docking the ferry, he comes upon the Temple of Persephone, home of the goddess of spring, who's been abducted by Hades long ago, and now serves as the queen of the underworld. The goddess takes pity on the great warrior, telling him that his daughter now resides within the fields of Elysium, where the souls of the pure live for eternity. She offers Kratos a choice. Should he release his sins, his past evil, then he will be allowed to enter the fields and be with his daughter. This would mean giving the power that was bestowed upon him by the gods away, and the queen warns the warrior that the world will suffer should he decide upon this course of action. Kratos does not care for the world and only wishes to be with his daughter. His power is leaching from his body, pouring into the forsaken tree. His humanity is restored to him, and he enters Elysium, where his daughter is running to his side. Yet, the warrior is uneasy. Persephone appears to reveal her true plan.
More sense. When I was younger,
trapped in the underworld, the queen released the great titan Atlas.
When I was younger, I was like, what the hell is going on? Now I understand.
Directing him to pull down the pillar that holds up the very world. With the world fallen, Zeus and the other gods will fall as well, ending all of existence. Kratos knows that even the soul of his daughter will end should all existence be destroyed. Knowing what he must do, Kratos begins slaying the souls that reside within Elysium. With each one destroyed, he regains the power that he gave up. And with his power restored, his body is once again cloaked in the ashes of his departed family. And tears fill the eyes of his daughter as she watches her father stride from the fields, prepared to sacrifice his own happiness so that his daughter's soul may exist. Kratos follows Persephone, finding her at the pillar of the world. The queen has now grown dark wings, and she is clad in black armor, bringing Kratos to the top of the pillar where she attempts to confuse the warrior and tempt him with the promises of living out his afterlife with his daughter. But Kratos resists. The queen commands Atlas to kill him, but Kratos once again has the gauntlets of Zeus, and he uses the immense power to rechain the Titan, lashing him to the very world itself. With this obstacle out of the way, the ghost of Sparta battles the queen of the underworld, finally killing her. Her death sends a cascade of energy that destroys the pillar of the world, leaving only the chained Titan to hold up all of existence. With the queen defeated and the Titan once again imprisoned, Kratos completes his task of returning Helios to the sky. Yet now he is weak from his ordeals and he tumbles out of the sun chariot, landing atop a cliffside. The Spartan falls unconscious, unaware that he is visited by two gods. Helios and Athena descend the cliffs, thanking the warrior for his victory. They take the weapon of the gods from him, not wanting such powerful artifacts to fall in the hands of humanity. And as they turn to leave, the sun god questions whether the Spartan will be all right, if they should perhaps do more for him, since he has done so much for them. Yet Athena simply replies, he'll live. He must. And that concludes Chains of Olympus. Now, for those of you who may not be in the know and don't understand the timeline for God of War, the first God of War game is actually going to be next. Chains of Olympus is one of the prequels that came out along the timeline of this title. But it explains more character to Kratos, like his daughter, and why he distrusts the gods so greatly after everything they've done to him. In the end, God of War is still one of my all-time favorite franchises, and I loved the transition it made from going from a brutal action game to a more narrative-driven storyline. And I want to know, did you enjoy these early God of Wars, or do you enjoy the new God of War? Do you just like them both like me? Anyway, don't forget, we're over on Twitch and our YouTube channel, Eligible Monster, where you can see us talking about more video games and stuff like that. We're going to keep the complete story series here on Comic Historian, as I feel the complete story series has become kind of like in line with what the Comic Historian channel has become, as pretty much what we...
Alright, so that's the Chains of Olympus. I think we gotta do one more. I think we have to do alright, y'all. So y'all see the next one in the series is God of War 1. Yeah, I played God of War 1. That's the last one I played before Ascension. Alright, so this is gonna be the God of War 1 story.
Kratos, a powerful warrior of Olympus gods who just lost his job and the meaning of life, I guess. He jumps from the highest mountain in Greece, and a female voice narrates that after 10 years of suffering, death would be his escape from madness. 3 weeks before that, at the Aegean Sea, Kratos is still a god's champion, fighting on a wrecked ship with undead soldiers. He's sent by Poseidon on a mission to kill Hydra. After a brief encounter with one of the heads, he meets up a guy locked in the prison, but he says that he would rather die than be saved by Kratos, as he knows what he did in the past. This other guy is like, "You came too late, we have no chance to defeat Hydra." But Kratos is like, okay, hold my beer, and starts butchering the poor zombies. Then Poseidon shows up and gives Kratos special power of throwing a storm lightning strike. That helps to kill Hydra, one hit by another with a quite classy fatality finish style. When the job is done, Kratos goes inside the monster's stomach and saves a guy that was eaten earlier. At least that's what he thinks, because soon it turns out that Kratos just wanted his golden key, and when he gets it, he pushes the guy down the Hydra digestive system. The key opens the door to Captain's room where Kratos sees slaughtered women, which reminds him of his past. He has a flashback of killing a woman and burning down a village. Those kind of flashbacks haunt him often lately, and wine is not helping anymore. Kratos calls Athena and says that he has served faithfully for 10 years, and he really has enough. Athena is...
Alright, so this is when it goes back to after Chains of Olympus. Like he calls Athena, he served enough.
Okay, we have one final task for you. You need to go to Athens and stop Ares, who is destroying my city. Since Zeus forbade gods to fight against each other, Kratos is the only one who might be capable of stopping Ares. Goddess promises that if Kratos will complete the final task, his past will be forgiven. Kratos goes to Athens. The gates of the city are protected by 2 minotaurs, so Kratos gets a chance to stretch his legs a little after the journey. Then he has to defeat Cyclops, but turns out the gate is blocked, so he still has to find a way around. He meets Aphrodite. She gives him the power of freezing the enemies, but to earn it, he has to fight Medusa first. Actually, he needs to cut off her head, and with it, he can now turn enemies into stone sculptures for a limited amount of time. With the help of a giant crossbow, Kratos climbs into the city streets where an oracle of Athens...
Yo, I remember playing this game. This game is harder than Ascension overall, but final boss, I don't know. I mean, that Trials is probably harder than the final boss it is, but this final boss is second.
shows half naked. Kratos reaches to grab her, but she is just a hologram. She tells Kratos that he needs to find her temple and she will show him how to kill Ares. On his way, he meets a woman who panics when she sees him and kills herself.
When you fight Ares,
that's another person being terrified by his reputation. Kratos also meets Zeus, who gives him a new power of throwing lightning. Then he finds Oracle, but she is captured by Herpes, so the warrior goes after them to save Oracle. He defeats a dozen of them supported by Medusa, and an old man wakes up from the grave. He is impressed by Kratos and says he is the one, and starts digging a grave, telling Kratos it's prepared for him. He also tells him that when all is going to be lost, he will be there to help. Kratos is like, okay, thanks for nothing, but I need to go back to my quest.
Is that Orcos?
Herpes throws Oracle from the air, but she manages to capture a hanging rope. Luckily, Kratos finds a way to reach her. Oracle looks into his soul and sees that in the past Kratos was a captain of Spartan army. He was drunk with power, and his desire of conquest had no bounds. The only thing that was stopping him was his wife and daughter. Oracle is quite disappointed with what she has learned about Kratos, but she still reveals to him that the only thing that can defeat Ares is Pandora's box. It was hidden in a desert somewhere in the east. Kratos takes a row through the Severs and walks over the mountains, finally reaching the desert of the lost souls. There he meets Athena, who tells him that Oracle was right, and if he wants to find Pandora's box, he must search for the sirens and follow their song. They will guide him to Kronos, the last of Titans, who has been sent to the desert by Zeus, and he is the one that has the Temple of Pandora chained to his back, because that's how big he actually is. Kratos follows the song of the sirens, and that leads him to the passage where he must kill 3 sirens to open the door. Inside, he finds a giant horn that is used to create a road through the sandstorm, and leads him to another horn that he uses to wake up Kronos. Kratos jumps on his back and climbs in search of Pandora's box. At the entrance, he meets this guard, or at least what's left of him. With a quite passive-aggressive attitude, he tells Kratos that no one ever was able to accomplish this quest, so soon he probably will be burned like the rest. Without giving a single F what the guard was talking about, Kratos carries on. He fights Cyclops and enters the temple.
Shall we even play the game that we watched this?
Rings of Pandora, which basically means running around pulling down levers and turning stuff while trying to avoid deadly traps, until he reaches Artemis and gets a blade. that is able to slay the Titan. He also finds Handle of Atlas. The handle moves the giant statue, so Kratos can now use this ladder to make it throw a giant stone ball and open the entrance to the altar. There Kratos finds the coffin where the son of the architect that built this Squid Games guy wet dream lays. Kratos rips off his head, and that opens a secret door to the underground tunnels that led him to a flashback from the past. Kratos reminds himself when he was a young Spartan captain leading the Spartan army, and everything went smooth until he met barbarians from the east, numbered in thousands. Kratos' men were massacred, and he faced the end of his career, so he decided to call Ares and give out his soul in return for help. Kratos will regret this decision for the rest of his life.
Ares! Destroy my enemies, and my life is yours.
Back to Pandora's Rings. Kratos must complete the challenge of Poseidon. He fights Cerberus, a three-headed demon dog who breathes fire. Then he climbs up the hill and finds a room with a soldier alive but trapped in a hanging cage.
Bro,
he was
I
really
remember all
counting on
this.
Kratos
It's the longest game.
But you know, gods demand a sacrifice. That one opens the door of Poseidon's strand. And that's no
I really gotta play this.
Because it's time for Kratos to put an end
I
to
remember all
speedos
this.
and dive into the water. He swims up right into the challenge of Hades. Kratos makes blood sacrifices on his altars and fights a centaur boy band on the way. He goes through a maze filled with enemies and with the help of a giant statue opens the gates and giant fireballs are unleashed. From here it's just a rope climbing, avoiding giant blades while walking hundreds feet above the ground and fighting a 20-foot-tall Pandora's guardian. And finally,
That shit was hard.
Kratos reaches the Pandora's box. Nah, it's just another coffin of an architect's son, since he had two sons obviously. Kratos of course rips off his head and has a word with Hades, who gives him powers of the souls of the dead. He goes all the way back to Pandora's Rings and finally is able to release a giant statue that opens a small room where he finds... Nah, not the Pandora's box, but a lever that elevates him to the higher levels of the temple. There he meets Satyr. Even though Satyr has an ability to clone himself during the battle, he is no match for Kratos, who goes on a bridge where he spots an harpy. That's a warning from his master. Flashback to the battle against barbarians. Kratos was about to be defeated when he called Ares. Skies split apart and the god of war stepped through. Ares saved Kratos' ass, turning him into a perfect warrior, and in return, Kratos became his servant. His army was saved and the barbarians were destroyed. He was also chained by the...
This is a visual flashback of what's before Ascension. Or what happened, yeah, what they explained during the Ascension cutscene.
of chaos, a weapon and a symbol of his slavery at the same time. Blade's army was saved and the barbarians were destroyed. He was also chained by the blades of chaos, a weapon and a symbol of his slavery at the same time. Kratos gets the message, but he tells Harpy to tell Ares that he can go suck a lemon. Then Kratos enters Cliffs of Madness, a cruel maze filled with enemies and puzzles. He finds the necklace of Hera and Aphrodite and uses them to open the bridge between the cliffs. That brings another flashback. This one haunts him with the memories of the cruel murders he made in name of Ares. He and his army slaughtered men, women and children. But this one time, on a band camp, no, just kidding, this one time, when he was sent to burn down Temple of Athena, a village oracle showed up and warned Kratos that inside there's a great danger. That did not stop Kratos from killing all people inside the temple with a great rage. But when he looked at his two last victims, he saw a young woman and a little girl. And that was his breaking point, where he understood that he can't no longer serve Ares, and he must kill the god of war. Warrior finds a room with a skull chest and opens it. Athena shows up and informs him that he is the room, and he was his breaking point, where he understood that he can't no longer serve Ares. From warned Kratos that inside there's a great danger. A village oracle showed up this one time when he was sent to burn down Temple of Athena.
That's when he killed his wife.
And warned Kratos that inside there's a great danger. That did not stop Kratos
He was just killing people in the village, and he killed his wife and his daughter.
from killing all people inside the temple with a great rage. But when he looked at his two last victims, he saw a young woman and a little girl. And that was his breaking point, where he understood that he can't no longer serve Ares, and he must kill the god of war.
And this is when he comes back in Ascension. Phew.
Warrior finds a room with a skull chest and opens it. Athena shows up and informs him that he is the first mortal to reach Pandora's box. She tells him to bring the box to the city, kill Ares and save Athens. But back in Athens, Ares realizes that Kratos had succeeded in finding the box. He throws a sharp piece of stone column so hard that it travels all the way and hits Kratos straight in the chest. As he is dying slowly, he has another flashback of the night of the slaughter in Athena's temple. It is revealed that the two lost victims were his wife and child. And it turns out that Ares purposely made him to do it, because his family was the only thing holding him back from becoming even more cruel. Ares was hoping that now Kratos would become an even more deadly weapon, but instead he directed his anger towards the god of war. The old lady cursed Kratos and covers his skin with the ashes of his family for everyone to know what he did. And that's how the ghost of Sparta was born. He did. And covers his skin with the ashes of his family for everyone to know what he did. And that's how the ghost of Sparta was born. Back in the present, Kratos is still dying and minions of Ares are taking the box. When he died, his sister was born for everyone to know even more dead in Athena finding the box. He throws a sharp piece of stone column so hard that it travels all the way and hits Kratos straight in the chest. As he is dying slowly, he has another flashback of the night of the slaughter in Athena's temple. His family was the only thing holding him back from becoming even more cruel. Ares was hoping that now Kratos would become an even more deadly weapon, but instead he directed his anger towards the god of war. The old lady cursed Kratos and covers his skin with the ashes of his family for everyone to know what he did. And that's how the ghost of Sparta was born. Back in the present, Kratos is still dying and minions of Ares are taking the box. When he died, his soul was cast into the fires of Hades, and as he is falling down to the underground, he grabs a man hanging on the rock. He climbs back and fights his way through the paths of Hades. Finally, he reaches the top and someone drops him a rope. Turns out, it's the grave digger from before, remember? He looks happy and informs Kratos that he is just in time as the grave is finished. Kratos asks him who he is, but the old man is like, well, it's a long story, bro, and you get a job to do. So Kratos goes to the city and meets Oracle, who is bleeding to death. She tells him that it's too late, but that's nothing Kratos haven't heard before. So he just goes to Ares, who has his shouting to the air while standing on a cliff moment. When he spots Kratos, he's a little surprised, but Kratos did not come to have a chit-chat. He throws a lightning, grabs Pandora's box and opens it. It unleashed the power of the gods, and that made Kratos tall enough for him to have a proper face-to-face between the main event. So, the two touch gloves and the fight goes on. Kratos has advantage, but Ares starts to play with magic and kinda sucks him inside a portal. Kratos lands in front of the temple where he slaughtered his own family. Ares counts on breaking his spirit that way. Inside, he meets his wife and daughter. Suddenly, several Kratos alter egos appear and he has to kind of fight himself. But he manages to defeat them and save his family. Ares still tells Kratos that doesn't even count because he sacrificed them anyway when he agreed to serve them. But Kratos is like, killing them wasn't a part of the deal, jackass. That makes the god of war mad and he chains Kratos to the cliff and kills his family in front of him. Back in Athens, Kratos gets together and spots that a nearby bridge is a nice piece of a sword for a guy his size. And the second round begins. Ares gets his ass kicked and he softens, starting to explain that he was just trying to make Kratos a great warrior. Kratos is like, I guess you did. And bang, he stabs him in the neck. Ares dies.
Kratos had done me impossible. A mortal defeating a god.
Athena's like, good job, bro, but you didn't read the small print. What you promised was to forgive your sins, and we never said that we'll erase your memory, stupid. Disappointed Kratos climbs up the highest mountain in Greece and jumps into abyss. But soon, some force lifts him up from the sea and places him back on the mountain, where Athena waits and tells him that gods cannot just allow him to kill himself after a brilliant work he has done with Ares, and since they are currently hiring for a god of war position, he might be interested. Kratos goes to the Olympus and sits on the throne that belonged to Ares, becoming the new god of war. And that's how the game ends.
The mortal who had become the new god of war.
The more you know, the more you know. Alright, so we gotta play God of War 1 now. Fuck yeah, we gotta play God of War 1. Alright, so yep, y'all, we gotta play God of War 1 now. Because we see what happened in Ascension, the origin story, and God of War 1. It just reminds us of that. I did play God of War 1 like last year. And oh my gosh, y'all. It's gonna suck to play it again. But I'm gonna play it again just for y'all. Alright, y'all, we're gonna watch one more video. We're gonna watch just the overall story to this point. Alright, so this is the next video we're gonna watch. It's the God of War original saga story summary. What you need to know. Basically, he made this like 7 years ago for the PS4 God of War, but we're just gonna watch it now.
With the upcoming God of War for PS4, we see series protagonist Kratos taking on a new mythological foe, so we here at Suggestive Gaming figured now would be a good time to go over Kratos' first set of opposition, the Greek Pantheon. So strap yourself in, because this is what you need to know about the entire original God of War saga, from start to finish. Our story begins with the Primordials, the very first beings to come into existence, fighting for control of their creation, Earth. This war ravished the world, and eventually the three Furies were born from the rage and power of the battle. The Furies were then tapped.
We see the first part happen in God of War 1. We see this part happening in Ascension.
Honor oaths between the various beings of Earth. Their first victim was the Hecatoncheires, Aegeon, who had broken an oath to one of the first gods, Zeus. To make an example of Aegeon, the Furies petrify his body into the prison of the damned for anyone who dared to break an oath in the future. Eventually,
as an Ascension,
the Furies began to take guidance from the god of war, Ares, who convinced them to join him in a siege on Olympus. Believing their forces to be too weak, the queen of the Furies, Alecto, birthed a son with Ares, hoping to create a powerful warrior. This warrior, Orcos, proved to be a failure in Ares' eyes and was disowned. However,
that was Ares, and okay,
decided to use him as their oath keeper. With Ares still in search for his warrior to help take over Olympus, Zeus hears of a prophecy foretelling his death at the hands of one of his sons, a marked warrior. Ares is then tasked to find and dispose of this threat. Ares discovers Deimos, a young Spartan who bore a birthmark all over his body, and storms the city to capture him. During the kidnapping, Deimos' brother, another young Spartan by the name of Kratos, attempts to stop the god, but he is struck down, leaving a scar over his right eye. Ares attempts to kill Kratos for this, but his sister, Athena, the goddess of war, convinces him to spare the boy. Deimos is then taken to the god of death. Athena, the goddess of war, over his right eye. Ares attempts to kill Kratos for this, but his sister, Athena, the goddess of war, convinces him to spare the boy. Deimos is then taken to the god of death, Thanatos, to prevent the prophecy and protect Zeus. Kratos, tortured by his inability to save his brother, vows to never fail like that again and tattoos a replica of Deimos' birthmark on himself in remembrance. Kratos' rage and pain remained with him as he became a leading member of the Spartan army, eventually marrying a Spartan woman named Lysandra, and the two have a daughter whom they name Calliope. Calliope unfortunately contracts a plague, which infects her skin and causes the Spartan authorities to decide for her to be thrown into a chasm and left to die. Kratos then sets off to find the cure for her disease, a mysterious element with the exceptional healing abilities called ambrosia. Unbeknownst to Kratos, the gods had a wager in which they selected various heroes whom they believed would be the first to obtain the ambrosia. Kratos was chosen by Ares, likely due to their prior run-in in which Kratos displayed his resilience and bravery. After battling the other gods' selected heroes, Kratos fights a climactic battle with an army of barbarians and their leader Ulrich, who was trying to retrieve the ambrosia to heal his own father. Kratos eventually bests Ulrich and captures the ambrosia, but at the cost of many of his men. Upon returning to Sparta, Kratos heals his daughter, and the king of Sparta bestows on him the title of captain. As captain of the Spartan army, Kratos leads his men to many victorious battles, often slaying scores of enemies with an increasing hunger for power, despite the wishes of his wife. Eventually, Kratos comes across a familiar enemy, the barbarian King Ulrich, who still blames Kratos for his father's death. Kratos and his army are no match for the rebuilt barbarian army, and Kratos, moments away from death at the hands of Ulrich, calls out to Ares in desperation. Ares, seeing a candidate to overthrow Olympus, accepts Kratos' offer of loyalty and kills the barbarians in exchange. He then gives Kratos the Blades of Chaos, symbolizing his servitude to the god of war. Under Ares' loyalty, Kratos slays many innocents, razes villages, and spreads chaos in the name of him. Under Ares' influence, Kratos slowly loses his humanity with every battle fought for the god. Soon, Kratos is tasked to raid a village of Athena's followers due to Ares' jealousy of Athena, whom their father Zeus favored. There, he encounters an oracle who warns Kratos of dark things awaiting him inside the city's temple. Kratos ignores this warning and enters the temple, blindly slaughtering those inside. However, afterwards, Kratos comes to realize that those inside the temple were none other than his beloved wife Lysandra and daughter Calliope. Ares reveals that he had transported them there secretly in order to sever Kratos' human ties and create the perfect warrior. Kratos leaves the bodies of his family inside the temple to burn, and as he exits, the oracle curses him, binding the ashes of his wife and child to Kratos' skin, forcing him to wear another reminder of his failures and turning him into the ghost of Sparta. Kratos then renounces his allegiance to Ares and breaks his oath, causing the Furies to hunt him down and torture him with endless illusions. Kratos then finds himself trapped in an illusion of his former home in Sparta. Orcos appears before him and helps him break the illusion using Lysandra's necklace and ring. Orcos then convinces Kratos to seek out Aletheia, the Oracle at Delphi. He finds the Oracle captured, but is unable to prevent her from being mortally wounded. Before her death, she informs Kratos that the only way he can be free of his oath to Ares would be to slay the Oath's enforcers, the Three Furies. Kratos returns to Orcos, who informs him of Ares' true intentions all along to use him to overthrow Zeus. With this knowledge, Kratos travels to Delos to slay the Furies. Upon his arrival, however, he is ambushed and captured by them, and they proceed to torture him in the prison of the damned. After 2 weeks of torture, one of the Furies leaves an opening for Kratos to exploit and escape his imprisonment. After various battles and illusions, Kratos is able to outsmart and outfight the Furies, slaying all 3 of them. After the death of the Furies, Kratos returns to his home in Sparta, where he finds Orcos, who reveals to Kratos that while he had killed the Furies, they transferred Kratos' oath to him, keeping the bond with Ares intact. Orcos hands Kratos his blade and asks him for an honorable death in order to permanently end Ares' hold on them. Kratos complies, killing Orcos and burning his home with the former Oathkeeper's body still inside. No longer under servitude to Ares, Kratos dedicates his life to serving the gods of Olympus as their trusted warrior. After defeating an invading Persian army for the gods, Kratos appears before the gods of Olympus as their side. No longer under servitude to Ares, Kratos dedicates his life to serving the gods of Olympus as their trusted warrior. After defeating an invading Persian army for the gods, Kratos appears before them to ask for his next task. Suddenly, however, he sees the sun fall from the sky, enveloping the world in darkness. Kratos follows the last trace of light he can see to the temple of Helios. After speaking to Athena, Kratos concludes that Helios had been captured, allowing the god of dreams Morpheus to entrance other gods into a deep sleep, allowing him to take control of Greece. Inside the temple, Helios' sister, tasks Kratos to awaken her brother's fire steeds in order to find him. In return, she promises to relieve Kratos of his nightmares, which haunt him in the form of a melody his daughter used to play on her flute. He does this, and the steeds take him to Helios' location, the Underworld. There, he meets Charon, the ferryman on the river Styx, who ultimately denies Kratos passage as it is not his time. Kratos engages him, but is knocked unconscious and thrown into Tartarus, the darkest depths of the underworld where the Titans had been chained by Zeus. Upon waking, Kratos witnesses Atlas's chains broken and the Titan missing. Kratos fights his way through Tartarus, eventually climbing out to confront Charon once again. After defeating him, Kratos uses his ferry to follow Helios' light down the river Styx to a temple. There, Kratos sees his daughter upon the shore. He follows her inside, but instead finds Persephone, the queen of the underworld. Persephone reveals to Kratos that he can meet his daughter once again, and she is now residing in the Elysium Fields. Persephone tells Kratos that to see his daughter, he must make a sacrifice, to give up all of his weapons and powers given to him by the gods. Kratos does this, transferring his powers into the Forsaken Tree, and regains his humanity. He reunites with his daughter, but the reunion is interrupted by Persephone, who reveals her true intentions. She reveals that it was her who released Atlas, whom she tasked with destroying the pillar that holds the earth. She intends for this to kill everyone, including herself, to free her from her imprisonment by Hades as his wife. Kratos painfully makes the decision to give up his ability to see his daughter and regains his weapons from the tree. Doing this, he once again becomes the ghost of Sparta and, against his daughter's wishes, takes off to stop Persephone. Kratos finds the queen at the base of the pillar, and she carries him to the top. There, the two engage in a final battle. During this battle, Persephone attempts to confuse Kratos and convince him to return to Elysium to be with his daughter. Final battle. During this battle, Persephone attempts to confuse Kratos and convince him to takes off to stop Persephone. Doing this, he once again becomes the ghost of Sparta and, against his daughter's wishes, takes off to stop Persephone. Kratos finds the queen at the base of the pillar.
Oh, we can go to Sparta again. Okay.
There, the two engage in a final battle. During this battle, Persephone attempts to confuse Kratos and convince him to return to Elysium to be with his daughter. Kratos resists this, however, and Persephone orders Atlas to take care of him. Atlas does not get this chance, however, as Kratos chains the Titan to the ceiling of the underworld and returns to Persephone, besting her in battle and killing her. Her body explodes, destroying the pillar and leaving Atlas as the only thing holding the world together. Atlas, though defeated, taunts Kratos as he remains a slave to the gods. Kratos accepts this fate, as he can only hope that serving the gods will cause them to one day free him from his nightmares. Atlas then predicts to Kratos that they will meet again before Kratos leaves to return Helios to the
Atlas
sky.
is holding up.
Weak, and now knowing that his sins will never allow him to see his daughter again, Kratos falls from the chariot, landing on a cliff overlooking the Aegean Sea. Sometime after waking, Kratos is sent into the sea to kill a Hydra and return peace to the waters. Sometime after again, Kratos falls from the chariot, landing on a cliff overlooking the Aegean Sea. Sometime after waking, Kratos is
and this one that goes into God of War 1.
Into the sea to kill a Hydra and return peace to the waters. After doing so, he is approached by Athena, who asks Kratos to save her city, Athens, from her brother Ares, whose army is currently advancing. Kratos, seeing an opportunity to get revenge on Ares, agrees on the condition that the gods free him of his nightmares once and for all, as well as offer him a chance at redemption. Kratos enters Athens to find... Kratos, seeing an opportunity to save her city, Athens, from her brother Ares, whose army is currently advancing. Kratos, seeing an opportunity to get revenge on Ares, agrees on the condition that the gods free him of his nightmares once and for all, as well as offer him a chance at redemption. Kratos enters Athens to find the town's oracle, who tells him that in order for a mortal to defeat a god, he must seek the power of Pandora's box, which is locked inside a temple constructed on the back of the Titan Kronos, who Zeus cursed to wander the desert of lost souls for eternity. Kratos makes his way to the temple, encountering a mysterious gravedigger on the way. Inside the temple, Kratos solves several puzzles in order to find Pandora's box. However, Ares senses this and throws a pillar from Athens, impaling Kratos and killing him. Ares then arrives and steals the box as Kratos dies and returns to the underworld. However, with help from the gravedigger, who refers to Kratos as my child, he is able to climb from Hades and return to Athens. There, he opens Pandora's box and gains the power to confront Ares. After a battle, Ares tortures Kratos by forcing him to relive his family's death at his hands. Kratos resists this, however, and Ares is forced to strip the blades of chaos from him to relive Pandora's box and gains the power to confront Ares. After a battle, Ares tortures Kratos by forcing him to relive his family's death at his hands. Kratos resists this, however, and Ares is forced to strip the blades of chaos from Kratos' arms and kills the illusions of his family in front of him. Freed from the illusion, Kratos finds a nearby sword being used as an ornamental bridge and uses it to kill the god of war. The gods praise Kratos for killing the rebelling Ares. Kratos then asks Athena to finally free him of his nightmares. Athena then finally reveals to Kratos that while she can forgive his sins, his nightmares will stay with him forever. Kratos, feeling abandoned by the gods, climbs back to the cliffs overlooking the Aegean Sea, and feeling death as his only escape, throws himself off. However, Athena stops him at the bottom, claiming that there is now an empty throne upon Olympus. Kratos then enters a portal and claims his throne as the new god of war. Empty throne, his only escape, throws himself off. However, Athena stops him at the bottom, claiming that there is now an empty throne upon Olympus. Kratos then enters a portal and claims his throne as the new god of war.
Okay,
Still
then.
haunted by his memories, Kratos decides to explore his past against Athena's wishes.
Do we even gotta play God of War 1? I already seen what happened. I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments if y'all want me to play it or not. Alright, y'all. Now, y'all see we're all caught up with God of War and where we're at in the series. So just stay tuned. We're gonna play God of War 1 probably. I'm gonna just try to get that over with quick. And yeah, then we're gonna go on to we're gonna watch Ghost of Sparta after. And then we're gonna keep on moving on to the series. But like, comment, subscribe. Peace.